The Awakening. The Voidwalker drifted silently through the Crimson Nebula, its sleek hull designed for stealth rather than combat. Captain Nera Valerian stood on the bridge, her 4 crystalline eyes fixed on the main view screen. Behind her, the crew of scientists and archaeologists worked in hushed tones, their excitement barely contained. "Captain, the readings are unprecedented," said Chief Researcher Torla, his scaled fingers dancing across the holographic display. "The object ahead matches no known design in our database, but its size, it's larger than most moons." Nera leaned forward, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with anticipation. "Give me visual." The view screen shimmered, cutting through the nebulous haze to reveal what lay beyond. Collective gasps filled the bridge. Floating in the void was a construct of impossible scale, a warship so massive it defied reason. Its dark hull was scarred by ancient battles, vast sections open to space, yet its basic structure remained intact. "It must be at least 1,000 kilometers from bow to stern," whispered Torla. "No civilization in the Galactic Concordat has ever built anything remotely this size." Naira felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. "How old?" "Initial scans suggest approximately 5,000 standard years," replied Torla. "It predates the Concordat itself." The implications hung in the air. 5 millennia ago, the galaxy had been fractured, with hundreds of species fighting for dominance before the peace of the Concordat. But none of those ancient empires were known to possess technology capable of creating such vessels. "I want a closer look," Nera decided. "Prepare the shuttle." Hours later, Nera led a small team through the massive breach in the ancient warship's hull. Their environmental suits protected them from the vacuum as they floated through cavernous corridors that could have accommodated entire buildings. Everything was built on a scale that made Nera's team seem like insects. "These markings," said Torla, scanning symbols etched into a wall. "They're human." The word hung in the stale air of their comms. Humans were little more than legends now, a species said to have burned brightly, but briefly on the galactic stage, before their mysterious disappearance thousands of years ago. Most scholars dismissed them as exaggerated myths, but here was evidence they had not only existed, but had constructed ships that dwarfed anything in the modern galaxy. "The translator is working on a language," Torla continued. "It appears to be called the Retribution." They pushed deeper into the vessel, past giant machinery and weapon systems far beyond current understanding. Finally, they reached what appeared to be a control center, a vast chamber with dormant consoles and view screens. "Careful," warned Nera as Torla approached a still intact console. "Don't touch anything." But it was too late. As Torla's scanner passed over the surface, dim lights flickered to life beneath layers of dust. A low hum vibrated through the deck plates. "What did you do?" hissed Nera, but Torla could only shake his head in confusion. A holographic projection suddenly materialized in the center of the chamber, a flickering blue-tinged image of a being with no exoskeleton, scales, or tendrils. A human. "Emergency protocol activated," said the figure in a language their translators struggled to process. "Power conservation mode disengage. Detecting non-human life forms. Threat assessment in progress." Nera stepped forward. "We mean no harm. We are peaceful explorers." The hologram seemed to study them. "Species identification. Unknown. No match in database. Determining hostile intent. Inconclusive. We are members of the Galactic Concordat," explained Nera. "A peaceful alliance of species." The hologram flickered. "Galactic Concordat. Unknown political entity. Accessing temporal markers. System shock detected. Time displacement. 5,137 standard years since last active operation." Torla exchanged glances with Nera. "It's an artificial intelligence, and it's still functional after 5 millennia. I am Athena, Advanced Tactical Holographic Enhanced Neural Array, Command Eye of the TNS Retribution, Planet-class dreadnought of the Terran Naval Fleet." "What?" happened to your creators?" asked Nira carefully. The hologram's expression changed subtly. "The war of extinction. Humanity faced an enemy that sought our complete annihilation. When Earth fell, the remaining fleet enacted the Lazarus Protocol, scattering our most powerful warships across the galaxy, placing them in dormancy to await reactivation." "By whom?" pressed Torla. "By surviving human colonies, if any exist, or by potential allies, should humanity be extinct." The implications were staggering. If the Retribution was just one of many such vessels hidden throughout the galaxy. "How many ships were part of this Lazarus Protocol?" asked Nira. 117 planet-class dreadnoughts were deployed, replied HFY. "Current status unknown. 117 planet-sized warships, each capable of who knew what level of destruction, scattered across the stars." The thought was terrifying. "Show me the enemy," said Nira. "Show me what drove humanity to such measures." The hologram waved a hand, and the chamber filled with images of warfare on a scale that made Nira's inner membranes contract in horror. Worlds burning, entire fleets reduced to debris, and the enemy, black ships of organic design, countless in number. "The swarm," said HFY, "a hive-mind entity that consumed all in its path. Humanity fought for 3 centuries before the fall of Earth." "This swarm," said Torla hesitantly, "does it still exist?" "Unknown. Final tactical assessments suggested the swarm would continue its expansion unless stopped. If humans fail to contain them, it is probable the threat persists." A cold silence fell over the team. If the swarm still existed, the entire Concordat could be at risk. Peaceful species unprepared for a war of extermination. Suddenly, alarms blared through the chamber. Athena's hologram snapped to attention. "Alert! Multiple vessels detected entering the nebula. Configuration matches hegemony warships." Nira felt her blood freeze. The Carthan hegemony, the most militant faction within the Concordat, constantly pushing boundaries and acquiring new technologies to expand their influence. "They must have followed us," she realized, "or detected the ship's power signature when it activated." Athena's expression hardened. "Hegemony. Unknown political entity. Assessing approach vector and weapons signature. Hostile intent probable." "Wait," said Nira urgently. "The Carthans are aggressive, but they're part of our alliance. We can negotiate." Her communicator crackled. "Captain Valerian," came a harsh voice. "This is Commander Drac of the Carthan hegemony. We have detected a power signature of unknown origin. Your vessel is ordered to withdraw immediately. This artifact is now under hegemony protection." Before Nira could respond, HFY cut in. "Incoming transmission analyzed. Militaristic terminology and intent detected. Carthan vessels are powering weapons systems. They wouldn't dare fire," insisted Torla. "It would violate Concordat law." A massive explosion rocked the ancient ship. Warning lights flashed across Athena's holographic form. "Direct hit detected. Defensive protocols engage. Powering primary systems." The entire vessel shuddered as long-dormant machinery began to awaken. Lights flickered on throughout the vast corridors. On the holographic displays, Nira watched in horror as the Carthan vessels fired again. Not at them, but at the Voidwalker. "No," she cried as her research vessel erupted into flames, destroyed with casual indifference. Athena's voice was cold. "Civilian vessel destroyed. Hostiles confirmed. Initiating combat protocols." "Wait," pleaded Nira. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. Your ship has been dormant for millennia. You can't possibly." "The Retribution was designed to fight enemies that threatened galactic extinction," said HFY calmly. "Current threat assessment: minimal." Throughout the massive ship, weapon systems that had slept for thousands of years began to charge. Ancient engines ignited, pushing the dreadnought out of the nebula's embrace. The Carthan vessels, considered formidable in the modern galaxy, suddenly looked like toys before a giant. "Please," begged Nira. "There must be another way." ATGNA regarded her with an expression that might have been pity. I am programmed to protect potential allies. You and your team will be safe. The Carthons have made their choice. Across the galaxy, in neglected corners of space, dormant sensors detected the awakening of the Retribution, and one by one, other massive ships began to stir from their ancient slumber. Humanity's legacy was awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Reckoning. The Carthon fleet didn't stand a chance. From the command center, Nira watched in stunned silence as ATGENA orchestrated the Retribution's response. What the AI had called minimal defensive measures involved weapons that reduced 3 Carthon cruisers to atoms in seconds. The remaining ships attempted to flee, but energy fields reached out across vast distances, holding them in place. Enemy vessels neutralized, reported ATGENA. Minimal force applied as requested. Nira could hardly breathe. Minimal force. You destroyed 3 ships instantly. The Retribution is capable of planetary extinction-level attacks, replied ATGENA matter-of-factly. These were precision strikes designed to eliminate threat capacity while preserving life where possible. 87% of Carthon personnel remain alive, though their vessels are disabled. Torla was frantically analyzing data feeds. Captain, you need to see this. The ship's actions have triggered something. We're detecting energy spikes from distant sectors, identical signatures to the Retribution's awakening sequence. ATGENA nodded. Confirmed. 7 additional planet-class dreadnoughts have initiated revival protocols in response to the Retribution's activation. The Lazarus protocol is cascading as designed. 7 more ships of this size. Nira felt dizzy at the implications. The Concordat will see this as an invasion. That would be unwise, said ATGENA. The Retribution alone could neutralize conventional military resistance from entities of your technological level. The holographic displays change, showing the disabled Carthon vessels being drawn into massive hangar bays that could house entire fleets. What are you doing with the survivors? Demanded Nira. Interrogation is required. The galaxy has changed in 5,137 years. I require updated intelligence. Hours later, Nira found herself in a strange position, mediating between an ancient human AI and terrified Carthon prisoners. The Carthons, arrogant and aggressive by nature, were humbled by their encounter with technology far beyond their understanding. The hegemony will retaliate with our full military might, threatened Commander Drac, though his voice lacked conviction. Your full military might consists of approximately 3,700 capital ships according to your own records, replied ATGENA. The Lazarus Protocol has now activated 23 planet-class dreadnoughts. Each is capable of engaging your entire fleet alone. The Carthon commander fell silent. Nira stepped forward. Athena, what are your intentions now? The humans you were built to serve are gone. That remains unconfirmed, said the AI. I have initiated deep space communications on frequencies reserved for human emergency broadcasts. Additionally, the intelligence gathered from Carthon databases suggests several isolated regions that have remained unexplored by the Concordat. These align with potential colony locations from the final diaspora. You believe humans might still exist? Asked Torla incredulously. The Lazarus Protocol was designed as humanity's final contingency. If even a small colony survived, they would have preserved certain technologies and protocols. Before Nira could respond, new alerts flashed across the displays. Message received, announced ATGENA, with what sounded almost like emotion in her synthesized voice. Origin. Andromeda Fringe. Sector 7X authentication protocols confirmed. Human transmission detected. The chamber fell silent. Then, a crackling voice filled the air, speaking in the ancient human language that ATGENA had been using. This is Admiral Elena Chen of the Terran colony Avalon. We have detected multiple planet-class activation signatures. If any TNS vessel receives this message, confirmation code Delta Epsilon 97 Omega. Humanity survives. Repeat, humanity survives. Athena's holographic form seemed to stand taller. Authentication confirmed. Establishing secure channel. A new hologram appeared, a human female in a uniform similar to Athena's projection, though with visible modifications that suggested centuries of evolution. "This is impossible," breathed the human admiral, as she saw Athena. The retribution was lost during the Battle of Orion's Veil. "Negative, Admiral," replied Athena. The retribution enacted emergency protocols and entered dormancy in the Perseus Nebula. Reactivation occurred 6.4 hours ago, following contact with non-human entities and subsequent hostile action from a faction known as the Carthan Hegemony. Admiral Chen's eyes widened as she noticed Nira and Torla. "You've made contact with new species." "Affirmative." "Initial assessment." "Potential allies." The Admiral studied them. "After what the swarm did to Earth, we retreated to the farthest reaches of Andromeda. For thousands of years, we rebuilt, hidden, remembering the cost of trust. But perhaps it's time to emerge from the shadows." "What happened to the swarm?" asked Nira. "We thought we had contained them to the Milky Way's central sectors. Our final act before the retreat was to deploy experimental weapons that would collapse the spatial corridors they used for rapid expansion. It worked. Partially." Athena's displays shifted to show a section of the galaxy quarantined behind energy fields of staggering power. "The swarm is still alive," continued Admiral Chen. "Contained but not defeated. For millennia, we've maintained the barrier networks while rebuilding our strength. But the barriers are failing. That's why we've been searching for the Lazarus fleet. We need them for what comes next." The implications hit Nira like a physical blow. "Your barrier. It encompasses the region we call the Dead Zone. We thought it was rendered uninhabitable by ancient weapons." "It houses something worse than weapons," said Chen grimly. "And soon, it will break free." Over the next several days, the galaxy transformed. More human colony ships emerged from hidden sectors, establishing contact with the awakened dreadnoughts. The Galactic Concordat fell into chaos as news spread of these massive warships and the return of a species thought mythical. Nara found herself serving as an unlikely diplomat, shuttling between the human commanders and the hastily assembled Concordat Emergency Council. "You don't understand," she told the assembled representatives. "The humans aren't the threat. They've been fighting a war we didn't even know existed, containing an enemy that would consume us all." Supreme Counselor Vox, an ancient being of living crystal, leaned forward. "If what you say is true, then we face a choice between submission to these returned humans or annihilation by this swarm. Neither option appeals." "It's not submission they want," argued Nara. "It's alliance. They've shown me their historical records. Before the swarm, humans worked alongside dozens of alien species. They're not conquerors, they're survivors." The debate might have continued, but alarms blared throughout the council chamber. On the main display, a visualization of the Dead Zone appeared, showing massive breaches in the energy barriers that had contained it for millennia. "It's happening," whispered Nira. "The containment is failing." Within hours, reports flooded in from frontier worlds. Black ships of organic design, moving with hive mind coordination, poured through the breaches. The Concordat's defense fleets, considered formidable for generations, were swept aside like dust. In orbit above the Concordat capital world, the Retribution and 7 other planet-class dreadnoughts formed a defensive line. Admiral Chen, now aboard her own vessel, the TNS Phoenix, coordinated with Athena. "Just like old times," said the Admiral through the communication link. "Humanity against the void." "Not just humanity this time," replied Athena, as the displays showed thousands of Concordat ships moving into formation alongside the human dreadnoughts. Smaller, less advanced, but numerous and determined. Nira stood on the Retribution's bridge, now serving officially as liaison between humans and the Concordat forces. The combined fleet is ready. Every species has committed their ships. Athena's hologram nodded. Swarm emergence in 3 minutes. Primary weapons charge. Admiral Chen has transmitted the engagement protocols. The first wave of swarm vessels emerged from hyperspace. Organic ships that moved like predatory animals, coordinated with perfect precision. They numbered in the thousands, then tens of thousands, a dark tide threatening to engulf everything in its path. All vessels, broadcast Admiral Chen across the combined fleet. Execute battle plan Lazarus. For Earth, for Avalon, for all sentient life. The planet-class dreadnoughts moved forward, weapons that could shatter worlds unleashing their fury. Space itself seemed to warp and tear as energies beyond conventional understanding erupted from the ancient human warships. The swarm, for the first time in recorded history, hesitated. From the Retribution's command center, Nero watched as humanity's legacy changed the course of galactic history once more. Not through conquest, but through protection. Standing as a shield for species they had never met, against a darkness they had fought alone for millennia. "We were wrong about your kind," she said quietly to Athena. "The legends spoke of human warmongers who built weapons of terrible power. They never mentioned what you were fighting against." "History is written by those who survive," replied the AI, "and humanity has always excelled at one thing above all others." "War?" asked Nera. "Survival," corrected Athena. "Against all odds, against any enemy, humanity endures." As the battle raged across the stars, a new chapter in galactic history began, one where the ancient warships of a nearly forgotten species would either lead to salvation or destruction. But whatever the outcome, the galaxy would remember. Humanity had returned.